So hopefully, having done the reading, you should be familiar with the notation that we're going to be using today. There's brackets, the n and the 0, n, the 1, etc. We're going to be using that notation today, and we're going to use the calculator to help us get the coefficients of each different term within the binomial expansion. So if you want to expand x plus y to the power of 5, you're going to start with 5 and then 0. Then it's going to be x to the power of n, well, n is 5. And then it's going to be y to the power of 0. So y to the power of 0 there. Plus, then you go from 5, 0, and then it goes to 5, 1. X goes from x to the power of 5, go down to x to the power of 4. Y is going to increase the power, and then so on. Okay, so we've written that out using the different notation here. We can use the calculator, or we can do it just by working out by hand, but because you've not used the calculator before, we're going to just look out to type that into that. So if you've got one of these calculators, which most of you do, you press Shift and then the divide button, so you can see it's got NCR written above it, so you press that. You can either type that first, then press back and put the 5 and the 0 either side, or you can press the 5 first and then the Shift, doesn't really matter. Press equals and you get 1. You'll always find it's 1 if you've got the bottom number being a 0 there. So that's going to be, the first term is going to be 1 times x to the power of 5, and y to the power of 0 is just going to be 1. Plus, if you've got a 1 there, you just get 5. So that's x to the power of 4, y to the power of 1, so just put y for that. Plus, it's going to be 10. X cubed y squared. Now, some of you will start to be able to remember Pascal's triangle off by heart, and you'll know if it goes 1, 5, you'll know, and then 10, you know what's going to come next, but if you haven't memorised, you will have to work it out. Plus, then we've got 10 again. So 1, 5, 10, 10, it goes 5, and then 1 after that. So this is going to be this one here, so it's 10 x squared y cubed, and I know the next one's going to be 5 because I know the symmetry of it, so it'll be 5x y to the 4, and then plus 1, and then x to the power of 0 is just 1, y to the power of 5. So just tidying all that up, x to the power of 5 plus 5x to the power of 4y, etc. Now, that wasn't too bad. There's still quite a lot of terms, there's still quite a lot of work to do there. And if you've got the calculator to help you, it does help you identify what the coefficients are all going to be. Now, if you had a much higher power than 5, then that's going to be quite laborious. And what you'll actually find is a lot of times the questions actually don't ask you to do the entire expansion. It might ask you to do all the terms up to a certain power, so you can just stop at that point, or it might ask you for a coefficient of a certain term. So if we look at this question here, that's in your notes, but I'll just go through this one anyway so it can help you understand your notes. So find the coefficient of the term x cubed y to the power of 4 in the expansion of x plus y to the 7. So you could go through the whole expansion and find out which term is x cubed y to the power of 4 and what number is going to be in front of that. But that's quite a lot of work, so we don't really want to be doing all that work if we don't have to. Now, if it's x cubed and we've got the power of 7 here, the 3 is just 7 take away 4. So that means we're going to have, at the front here, we're going to have 7, and then we've got the 4, because that's the term that gives us 7 take away 4 gives you 3, and that gives you your x cubed term. Now, it's going to be y to the power of this value here, which is your r, as you can see from the formula there. So it'll be y to the power of 4. So we don't have to work out all the individual terms to find out what the answer is. Now, because you're not doing all the symmetry of it and you're not using a Pascal's triangle in full, you probably not know what that's going to be equal to. So you could actually do it by hand or just use a calculator. I'm actually going to do both for you. So 7 and then the 4 there, and that gives you 35. So for that particular term, that is going to be 35 x cubed y to the power of 4. Now the question specifically asks for the coefficient of x cubed y to the power of 4, so your coefficient is going to be 35. If we were to do that without a calculator, if you remember from the reading I asked you to do previously, it's going to be 7 factorial over 4 factorial and then 7 minus 4 factorial. Now, to make it easier to tidy that up, something you should know is that 7 factorial, for example, is just the same as saying 7 multiplied by 6 factorial. Or let's say 4 factorial is just the same as saying 4 times 3 factorial. And you could even say that's 4 times 3 times 2 factorial. Because remember, factorial is just 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 for this one. So if you've got 3 factorial, that's just 3 times 2 times 1, and that just adds in the 4 to multiply all that together. So that's just the same as 4 factorial. So I've got 4 factorial here, I've got 7 factorial on top. So let's tidy things up a little bit first. And 7 minus 4 is 3, so we've got this. Now, to make it easier to cancel a few things down, 7 factorial on the top, 4 factorial on the bottom there, so 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 factorial is just the same as 7 factorial over 4 factorial, 3 factorial. Score out that, got a common factor and cancel those out. Now 3 factorial is a nice easy one to do because 3 factorial is just 3 times 2 times 1. The timesing by 1 is kind of irrelevant. So 3 times 2 is just 6. So 3 factorial is 6. So that and that can cancel out. So all we're left with is 7 times 5, which gives us 35. So you can either do it by hand or using a calculator.